Hey everybody, welcome back to FeedbackLoop. I'm Joey.
And I'm Jeremy.
And this week we are continuing down the rocky path that is folk punk. And we've hit an album that I like a lot called Knife Man by AJJ, formerly known as Andrew Jackson Jihad.
And still kind of technically still known as Andrew Jackson Jihad because it's still AJJ.
Yeah,
kind of. Just an acronym for it.
They wanted to do an acronym. I think at the time of this album coming out, they were still Andrew Jackson Jihad, but I think it was after this album came out, they were like, Andrew Jackson was kind of a shitbag, and we have really no ties to Jihad. Just like that means nothing to us personally, so why is it in our name? So it's just AJJ.
But well, hell yeah, we have indeed hit it. It is the album that we done did.
Yeah,
this week, and now we're talking about it. Do you have anything specific about this album? You mentioned that you really like this album. Is there like a specific like connection you have with it?
So, okay, they had a previous album that used to be my favorite, and I liked their more acoustic style, which is kind of what they started out doing, the more folky aspect of the folk punk. I mean, they still definitely had the punk, but right. They had an album in 2007, People Who Can Eat People Are the Luckiest People in the World, and I fucking loved that album. And I tried to listen to some of their newer stuff at around like maybe 2016, and I was just like, I just don't like this as much, but I never thought to give this album a chance.
Yeah.
And then finally it was like 2018 or 2019 ish that I did, and I was just like, shit, man, I really like this. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Hopefully I have a similar sensation.
Oh god.
But according to our conversation prior to us recording this, Joey didn't seem very hopeful that I was going to like it.
Yeah.
or any music. For those who don't know, we're kind of going on a little folk punk journey. That Joey is guiding me through albums that he likes, and hopefully trying to take me somewhere that I like. But last week's episode was 2 hours long, and it felt kind of flat, I think, to me.
The album or the episode?
Both.
Yeah.
Not the episode. It was a long ass episode, so we apologize. Hopefully we'll keep this one shorter. And in the spirit of that, I'm gonna just move right along quickly, as if I was some Michael Jordan of drunk driving, just reading through all the stop signs and just getting right into it.
Nice. Getting right into it, short and to the point, just like this song is. Track 1, the Michael Jordan of drunk driving.
Fucking killed it.
I mean, this song isn't really an indication of the rest of the album, but what'd you think of this song, Jeremy?
Yeah, it's kind of a chill intro track with some acoustic guitar and a little bit of mandolin kind of going in there. The singer's voice, I mean, you knew this was coming. Everyone saw this coming. It's not awful, but he doesn't hit all of the notes perfectly, and it's not a poppy voice, right? And I'm very picky with vocals and stuff, so it sounds a little bit wonky, but it's a 20-second song, so there's not too much of it. It's not too bad. I like it musically. It's just there. It's there, and then it's gone.
Yeah, like really, it gets stuck in my head all the time, and I don't know. It's a good, nice intro. I don't have anything to say about it too much. It doesn't really. It just kind of sets up the album, the Michael Jordan of drunk driving. Obviously, it's like, oh, he must be really good at drunk driving. This guy's like sets the mood. Maybe this guy has an alcohol problem, and
to get that good at something, you have to do it a lot. So
but it's the Michael Jordan of drunk driving played his final game tonight, so presumably
he's dead.
He's dead, or he got in some sort of life altering incident because of said drunk driving.
Yeah, that was the implication. It's very short, and it's kind of not explicit about what happens. It's kind of got some poeticness to it that's kind of vague, but yeah, it definitely seems that like someone was depressed, alcoholic maybe, and he's no longer existing.
Yeah, maybe he just got distracted reading the unreleased sequel to the popular book Gift of the Magi 2, Return of the Magi.
While he was drunk driving.
And that's what caused him to wreck.
He crashed right into track number 2. Gift of the Magi 2, Return of the Magi.
So this is really where it starts. Do you have anything to say here?
I have so much to say, Joey, about all of the songs on this album.
Oh my god.
The energy on this one ramps up. This hits that kind of like the more punk aspect. of it, the more rocky aspect of this album. It has a cool kind of blend of some like surfy guitars and the mandolin. His voice on this track is way worse than it was on the prior track. It's like, I don't know, the way he sings, it's super like shaky,
Yeah.
and it sounds like he's constantly like out of breath and just like fueled up on like drugs or caffeine or something, and he's just kind of like spewing words out as soon as they hit his mind, and it's very like chaotic and hectic the way he sings, and I don't know, it's not. I'm gonna spoil this. By the end of this album, I was just used to it. Like I adapted very quickly to it. But these first couple tracks, I'm just like I can't get into it. Every time I listen to this album, I feel like I said this about a different album as well. But every time I come into this album, I'm immediately like, I don't like this. And then by like the third or the fourth track, I'm over it and I'm into it. So
You did say it, but I can't remember what album it was. I'll have to peruse through the catalog of like the fucking 100 hours of podcasts that we have now.
yeah,
But
just in the last fucking month, we've had 100 hours of
oh
content
god.
just because we have long episodes now, apparently.
So I guess I'll the album that we're doing next week is going to be the other album that I would have picked for this week. But
Okay.
I wanted to pick this one because you had said stuff about kind of the voice that Eric Peterson put on it for Mischief Brew. It was kind
Yeah,
of like a like
kind of cringy.
pirate voice.
Yeah,
But Sean Bonnet, the dude who plays guitar and does vocals, I feel like his voice is really raw. Like this is his
it's his
voice. Like
natural voice. Yeah,
yeah. So
I
I went with that and the fact that there's more. It's more of the punk, I guess. Like you can
right.
kind of see on this song, there's like distortion. It's not. There's still an acoustic feel to some of the background instruments, but
Yeah,
a lot of it still has a distorted punk feel. So I figured we could go a little bit this way for a bit.
before drunk driving and swerving back the other way.
Yeah, but yeah, like we've said, this one it has more of the punk sound that was missing on Mischief Brew, the more actual punk rock, I guess. Like musically, this song's 2 minutes long. Whenever
Mhm.
you first hear it, it's not like the song music changes up too much. I feel like
Right.
they have some interesting sounds on the album, but the individual songs typically are like what you see is what you get. There's not a lot of like shifting parts going on in most of the songs.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think most of my notes this week are more about the lyrics than the music itself, which isn't a bad thing. I think there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of cool sounds, a lot of cool instrumentation and stuff throughout the album that we'll call it when we get there. But
Yeah.
lyrically, this one, it was kind of hard for me to nail down, and I think the next track actually helped inform what this track means for me. I think, but it starts out and it sounds like he's kind of talking about having some moment of clarity and being ready to like leave his old depressed life behind and starting a new life. And then in the middle of the song, there's like this weird part about needing to put someone in a van, and then if they don't comply, just like bashing them in the head and going with it. That I'm not really sure how that fits in. And then the the back end of the song is just talking about how fickle and shitty people are. And I was trying to piece it together, and I said, so maybe his realization that everyone sucks made him feel better about himself being a pretty mediocre person, and that gave him the confidence to stop pitying himself and start living. And maybe the van thing was just like him kidnapping his former self and locking him up so that the new him can take his place in society or something.
Yeah, like that's generally I guess the
The
around the accept
motif.
yeah, like he in the beginning song, I guess the person's an alcoholic and Sean Bonnet, I know he's had like substance issues in the
Yeah.
past. I don't know if he still does, but like at least in the past he has, so it's been something he's dealt with and just the looking to the future part of the beginning where just the opening line is I used to be a dead guy, now I'm a fucking Jedi.
Yeah.
And he's just like talking about, okay, well I was this person, but now I'm looking to the future. And Gift of the Magi is a book about from what I can understand, I've never read the book. I don't read,
Me either.
but but it's about like a book about making a choice to sacrifice something from yourself for the greater good of other people. And I feel like a lot of this song and this album is kind of a critique of society and how people are just about themselves where it's like so that first or that second verse starts it's like the gift of the magi more like the gift of the magi too you sold your soul to buy some tits and I sold my soul to grow a dick like it's it's more about giving up stuff or sacrificing stuff that only benefits yourself and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have anything to do with other people. And that's kind of like where society is. And the kidnapping, just put them in the van type deal is, I guess, people being brought into society, like whether they want to or not, is kind of how I took at least that part.
Interesting. I can dig it. I like it. And I think that kind of fits in with the final track, my kind of final thoughts of the album, of Knife Man being the kind of the person. But we'll get to that at the end of the album, I think,
Yeah.
and maybe tie it back a little bit. But we're going to have to sing some American tunes before we get there, because it's a long trip to track number 16.
Yeah, it is. Sorry about that. But track number 3, American Tune.
Yes, segued again. I'm killing the segue so far.
Hell yeah.
You're killing them too. We're in this together, man.
We're doing
got
it.
this shit. I do like the start of this track, American Tune. It's just got some like muted guitar and some simple strings that are kind of there, and then it comes in and it gets accompanied by a kazoo.
Hell yeah.
I think is what it sounds like.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it's not as off-putting as it sounds it would be, but it's definitely a strange choice. And I noted at this point that like I'm noticing more lyrics in this song than I usually notice when I'm listening to albums. And I'm not sure if it's just like a trick of the mixing or the arrangement, or maybe because his voice is just so like unrefined that it stands out more against the more smooth and soft instrumentation behind him. But because of that, like even despite his lackluster voice, I guess I really like the song in part due to the lyrics.
Well, hell yeah. See, I feel like this song is what kind of polarizes people, like, because this song topic is not something that AJJ or Andrew Jackson Jihad ever like strayed away from. This song, it's, I guess I'll just start like with the lyrics, at least a preview. It's about like inequality in America, more specifically due to like race, gender, and sexual orientation, and more specifically in like the actual lyrics. I know this sentence right here is going to fucking trigger some people out there, but just like he talks about being a straight white male in America, and I feel like just hearing that instantly gets certain people's it gets their goat, is like somebody saying something like,
I fucking love it.
You fucking lib cucks. And you
yeah, I mean, I fucking love the song. I mean, yeah, it's about like how privileged straight white guys are in America, and I don't know, it's the truth.
Yeah.
And there's so many good lines in this track. Like just all of the lyrics are fucking great, but specifically like the chorus and the last chorus, the last iteration of it, is he's saying, so if I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone or I fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need. Shit's gonna work out for me. Just being like acknowledging that like, yeah, I have it fucking easy. I don't need any more luck. So if I see a penny on the ground, I'll leave it for someone else to pick up and have good luck, because I've got it made compared to most other people in America.
Yeah, and like, man, and yeah, the verse before that where he's like, I've got a pile of broken mirrors and I'm walking under ladders and I'm spilling tons of salt because to me that doesn't matter. And it's just, yeah, it's
very clever. There's a lot of very clever lines in it. I like it. I like it lyrically. I like it musically. It's good.
I do too. And speaking of musically, since I just fucking skipped over, he's got like, this is one of the ones where, like you were talking about with the kazoos, I feel like it still keeps a punk feel, but there's like a whole lot of like, there's like strings, like they have an upright bass player, and it sounds like there's some xylophones and stuff. Like it has a big sound without too much distortion causing the big sound, and that's kind of what I like about their instrumentation.
I agree. There's a lot of really cool shit going on with the strings and other instruments on this album that I really vibe with.
Yeah, man. Like if I was a kid out there looking for music in a music store, I'd definitely be picking up some of this and putting it in my backpack.
Fuck yeah!
No,
you fucking that was great until you're unconfident. Track number 4 is Backpack.
Hell yeah.
Oh man, those top comedy right there, guys. You get it here on Feedback Loop.
Oh yeah, that's what the listeners are coming back for.
Absolutely. That's our only selling point on this podcast is our expert segues.
Hell yeah. I mean, if we have a thing, maybe that's gonna help us. Like just
Exactly.
the segues.
But yeah, track number 4, Backpack. This has some like groovy tremoloed guitar kind of stuff going on, and then another like nice distorted guitar. And what I noted, the upright bass in this one, and there's some soft percussion and even some organ and stuff going on. And I think it's a great like deviation from the prior sounds, and I really, really vibe with it. There's a cool like vocal filter that goes on one of the layers when he sings certain lines in the song. It's usually like the first line in the chorus, but I think it happens another time as well that catches me off guard because it's like a higher pitched, like modulated kind of vocal of him singing it, so it sounds like a kid or like a female kind of thing singing it. And then before the final lines of the song, it sounds like there's like a gun that goes off for some sort of explosion. I wasn't really sure 100% which it was supposed to be, but it seems to be alluding to the lyrical content.
Yeah, this man, I do like that the watery feel of that tremolo guitar though. Like
It's so good.
yeah, it's a really cool feeling. I mean, water is a big thing that we tend to like
Yeah,
in music, and
we like water sounds.
yeah, water sounds. Just give me a whole album of water sounds.
Just
But
pour some water into a glass and give it to Joey.
please do. I only drink water and coffee and adult beverages, I guess. But
Adult beverages.
I don't drink sodas. Fuck sodas.
I don't drink no soda pop. I drink so much soda. I drink way too much soda.
I thought you stopped, Jeremy.
I mean, I cut back. I stopped
Okay.
drinking Mountain Dew specifically.
Well, there you go. That's something.
But yeah, it's an issue that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. But yeah, so that weird balloony voice, whatever, I just like how it all comes together to give the whole song an uneasy vibe to go
Yeah.
with the lyrics, which are darker in tone than other songs on this album. And I feel like that is, I don't know, something that I kind of liked about the album that we didn't listen to by them, that People Who Can Eat People album by them, where it's that album had one specific song that was like kind of just brutal
Yeah.
about, like, it went deep into imagery of like this song is about somebody like dying or being gravely injured by others, and the singer finding them, and it's like a person that they love and they don't necessarily know what to do, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of an intense picture, I guess.
Yeah, it is. He talked about finding a body on a couch, and it was the couch where quote unquote we had first kissed. So it was like a lover or a former lover perhaps that he found, and he's like carrying the body to the sea to wash them, and he says that the body felt like a backpack, and I was like, well, maybe that's implying that there's some weight of grief or guilt that's associated that he felt he needed to like try and scrub away for this. And then later the chorus changes and says that the body feels like a t-shirt. So I was thinking, okay, maybe that symbolizes that he's finally accepted what happened, and it's less of a burden, even though it's still easy to see from the outside that it's still affecting him. And he's just kind of wearing it as a t-shirt instead of this kind of burdensome backpack. And then part of me was like, well, maybe it's not just like a survivor guilt thing, and maybe this is a metaphor for something else, but I'm not really sure what. And then in track 5, I kind of come back to backpack because I looked too deep into it, and I should have just gone with the simple, like surface level stuff. But we'll talk about that when I talk about the lyrics for the next track.
Yeah, I know he said it was supposed to come out, like he's talked about this song and certain songs on other albums where he said it was supposed to come out like a brutal version of an action movie in a song, but like kind of the darker themes of it. I've always just equated this song with the feeling of helplessness when faced with like the problems around you, where he's in other songs he's talking about society and issues that he's wants to help with but doesn't even know where to begin. And he writes a lot of songs about feeling like a coward, and it seems that some of that comes from like paralyzing due to social anxiety, and that's kind of where I've always gone with this album or this song.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, he does talk a lot about that stuff on this album, so I think that's very valid. It's not too distant from the truth, if it's distant at all. There's not a lot of distance there.
Well, the
Can
distance
I
is
keep saying distance?
it's steadily approaching a track number 5 distance.
Hell yeah! This one goes right back into the upbeat, punky rock sound with the guitars and the drums. The drums really like bring this track together for me. I think there's a lot of like substance to them. There's a pretty cool like surfy guitar solo to it, and then the ending of this track just it kind of winds down very very slowly and nicely. It's a very complete package of a song, I think.
It really is, and I feel like the shortness of the tracks helps with that. Like all these tracks on like the first half of the album seem to be like this one's 2 minutes and 33 seconds, but all the ones before it were like, or back, I guess Pack Back was a little bit longer. American Tune was about 2.5 minutes, but then there's like Gift of the Magi is 2 minutes. Some of the next songs are under 2 minutes, and I feel
Right.
like it keeps a nice punk feel where it's like not too much is changing really with the music in the songs. Like there's no, it's not super experimental or anything, but it doesn't need to
Mhm.
be because they just wrote a good punk song wrapped up in a tight package.
Yeah,
And
it's very very concise, and I appreciate that, especially when there's fucking 16 tracks on this album. That it seems like a lot, especially because typically I don't think we usually talk about the meta of us doing this podcast, but typically when an album has more tracks, it takes longer for us to do our notes because we're writing track by track by track, as opposed to a long song, which is just one cohesive work, and it's less work to talk about fewer
yeah,
long songs than it is to talk about more short songs, I suppose. But it kind of works out for us because there's not a ton of deviation within each song that we can kind of hopefully keep this one under 2 hours.
yeah, hopefully. So in that hope, I'll move on to the lyrics.
Yeah,
And this song, so I always thought it was about just like a breakup. Like
yeah,
somebody was leaving. It was a one-sided breakup. Like the guy is kind of hoping that they're going to get back together. But the more I was reading into it, the more it seems to just be about like a long distance relationship where it's not necessarily over, but it's kind of just put on
hold.
pause.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
interesting. So I definitely leaned further into your original interpretation of the song, that it seemed to be him like about him kind of being depressed post breakup kind
yeah.
of a thing, and just being sad about the whole situation. And then I was like reflecting on Backpack because I couldn't really nail down Backpack, which was the prior track, and it kind of made me think maybe Backpack was him grieving the end of his relationship instead of grieving the death of someone, and the murderers could have been, friends of his former lover that convinced them to leave him. And he mentioned in Backpack that like their tongue was cut out and tied up, so maybe that was his friends kind of, or the lover's friends, like holding them back, and not giving him the closure of breaking up with him in person, and just the friends kind of being like, no, you got to break up with him. And then the person's like, okay, then I'll do it, and like leave a note or something behind instead of directly coming to him and saying like, look, this isn't working out, we got to break up. And so he kind of felt robbed of that closure, and I think the body that he could have carried was maybe just like memories that he had with the person that were kind of like weighing him down, and depressing him because of the breakup. But maybe that's looking way too deep into the connection between these songs, and that connection's not actually there.
I like that a lot actually because I feel like that makes more sense given kind of the trajectory of the protagonist of this album. Like it would make sense that the friends of this person are just like, you got to get out of there. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, you were dead. Like the last song ends, you were dead by the time that I had found you, and it's like you were dead in the sense of the relationship. But by the time that he actually got to see the person,
Hmm.
it was over. So that would make a lot of sense, and it would. I mean, the way that this song is worded, it definitely sounds like it's a breakup. I mean,
Yeah.
just the fucking the opening line. The first month after you left, I drank and jerked off till I slept. And
Yeah.
like I went to work when I had to, and then came home. Like you're just like life is existence is pain, and just doing basic things is just like
It's a task.
yeah, it's a task. And I really like the intro to the solo where he's like,
Yeah.
I hate whiny fucking songs like this, but I can't afford a therapist. Sorry guys, here's a solo. And he
Yeah,
plays
and
a nice little
goes
solo.
into the solo. It's a very very cool solo. I like how self aware he is. I think that's a big thing that this album is. It's very self aware, like, or he is very self aware of what he's experiencing and how he's experiencing it. And I think there is that kind of meta level to it, like in the song where he's acknowledging it, that like I know this isn't a fun song to listen to. I don't like these kind of songs, but I have to do it. Here it is. Here's a solo to distract you from how shitty this song is, or how unfun the song is at the very least. He's a very self-aware person and
Yeah,
in tune with what he's feeling, I think. And that comes up a few
definitely.
times on the album.
It does, and every time it's good. I mean, this dude, he sees like he feels the devil on his back, and he just looks back and he's like, "Fuck the devil, man."
Yeah, just like track number 6, Fuck the Devil.
Except with two C's, like
Two C's.
how the kids nowadays say thick with
Yeah,
two C's.
the
It's
two
fuck with
C's.
two C's,
And no K. It's just
and
FUCC.
yeah, no
Which,
no K at all. And I think that has to do with. I mean, I guess that has to do with whatever reference he's making, because I'm looking at the lyrics and I never understood this until I looked at the lyrics on Genius, but apparently it's like a reference to another song
yeah,
called Sick Made by Brother Lynch Hung. I don't know that guy,
me either.
but
I've not heard the song, but yeah, the first verse says I'm gonna fuck the devil in his mouth. I just need to listen to my sickness so I can learn how. And sickness is spelled SICCNESS, and the annotation mentions that song. And the first verse of that song is living with that 666. You learn to fuck the devil in his mouth and eat the shit out of his bitch. It's pretty intense imagery, but I guess
rock
while
on,
while
man.
while we're on the topic of lyrics, though, this one it was kind of hard to follow at some points, but overall, to me, it seemed like he was just feeling depressed and feeling a lot of self-loathing and being aware about it and acknowledging that he wants to change the things that are making him feel shitty. He wants to get out of this rut, but he's still kind of dealing with it, and he doesn't really know the best way to go about it.
Yeah, it's this song's always been like a good one to remind me, like just because, like I don't know, part of my everyday life is like recognizing that there's
Yeah,
plenty of things about me that I'm just like, that's not that's not optimal. I need
yeah,
to
I don't
fucking
like that.
I don't need to do that anymore. But then like I don't know, fuck the devil is just being like, okay, the bad things in you are the devil and fuck that. Like you gotta confront it. You gotta try to like recognize it and get past it and
Yeah,
change it.
which is not an easy thing to do at all.
No, not at all. And one line that I do like is just I don't know. I need to go throw up now. I want to be the queen of all the belly rubs now. Like I relate to that having been a drunk person at a time. Like where you're just like, God, I'm just like I need somebody to like pat my head
Tell
and
me it's okay.
lay down without a shirt on a tile floor and just contemplate my life.
just kind of sober up a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I have not experienced such a moment in my life necessarily, but I definitely understand the sentiment of it.
Yeah. Well,
Musically, since we kind of skipped over it, this one
yeah.
has more of a folky sound to it. It's got some mysterious kind of vocal ooze, and there's a very faint kazoo in the background of this one
Yeah.
as well. The electric guitar comes in with it, and it has like an immediate solo, and it's smooth. I'd like the sound of a lot of this album, and the mixing of it. The mixing of the vocals in this track is also pretty cool, and just like just overall, I like the sound of this track.
Me too. And it has a pretty cool music video to it
Oh, does
where
it?
Sean is just dressed up like a devil and he's just kind of like running around a hotel room being like acting like, oh, somebody's like literally going to fuck the devil.
Oh
And
my
he's just
god.
like, oh, very come hither.
Oh
But
baby.
but in the midst of all that love, the only thing
Neither one of us knew where to go there, but you
the,
you were doing it.
hate rain on me.
Hate rain on me.
That's what I say to hate because I like when it's raining on me.
Yes, you want all of the hate dumped upon
Yeah,
you,
please.
like track number 7, Hate Rain on Me.
Yeah, this one right off of fuck the devil. It's kind of it mentions alcoholism, and
Hmm.
this one starts off with the popping of a can, like somebody just cracked open a beer, and I don't know if that means something in the context of this song because this song doesn't really go back to that topic or anything. That's just
Yeah,
kind of something that's always caught my attention. But it's
I don't think I
really
noticed it.
it's just like for like a half of a second. It's like,
Yeah, I'm not doubting you. I'm just saying I didn't know
I'm going to prove to you. We'll get to the playback. Go to
that.
bring
Yeah,
that
hit
bring
the
that one up for
replay.
me.
do we have an instant replay? No?
God, I wish
Okay.
we did. We
Maybe
don't have the budget
someday.
for that.
Yeah, we'll get like a sample board or something.
Hell
Just
yeah.
cue things up ahead of
This
time.
one is really like guitar forward. It seems like there's like several layered guitars
Yeah.
seeming to take melodies and little solos over each other. Like I like that about it where it's kind of bringing that forward. Or Fuck the Devil didn't really have too much of that distortion. This one kind of brings it back. And it backs out around the bridge and the bass hits the forefront. I feel like there's a lot of parts of this album where the bass is kind of the star just
Yeah.
because it's not like an electric bass most of the time. I mean, maybe sometimes it is, but a lot of the times it's just an upright bass and it's got that nice full sound to it.
Yes, I'm pretty sure there's some electric bass on this as well. But yeah, when the bass is brought to the forefront, it's usually that upright bass, and it's a good sound. I like upright bass a lot, and cellos. We talked about cellos recently over the weekend, but yeah, it's cool sounds. I like it. I think like with all the guitars, and there a lot of them are in like the higher kind of floatier octaves and stuff, and there's just like a little tinge of sadness. It kind of like that sound in conjunction with the title saying "Hey, rain on me," it kind of felt like a summer rain kind of thing going on, where it's warm and it's kind of cheerful, but there's also this kind of like damper on it that kind of feels like a summer rain for me.
Yeah, I feel that, and it also comes through in the lyrics as well, like kind of the feeling where I mean the song is "Hate Rain on Me." It's talking about just kind of rejecting the joy and cheery and fake happiness surrounding like just society, everything, like popular culture. And I mean, this album came out in 2011. I know times have changed. Like there's not too much
Yeah,
happiness.
yeah. It seems like even pop music now is just all sad boy shit.
Yeah, which I'm all on board for,
Oh,
and
for sure.
I would totally bet Sean is as well because that seems to be kind of the vibe that I get from this, where he's just like, I mean, it starts off, I wish I had a bullet big enough to fucking kill the sun. I'm sick of songs about the summer and I hate everyone. Like that's
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
just
just dealing with whatever he's going through at the
yeah,
moment, which usually in the context of this album, probably depression,
yeah,
maybe also mixed with some alcoholism, which is just compounding it and making a lot of things worse, and kind
yeah.
of dealing with what that means for him.
Man, I just love singing along with this whole album. It's just and it's
It's
nice.
cathartic for you.
It's very cathartic, and I don't know if this is a part of the reason why I like folk punk so much, or just kind of off-key singers, because I'm not a terrible singer, I wouldn't say, but I'm definitely not a good singer.
I would
But
disagree.
well, we'll
I think you have a good voice, Joey.
whenever we put out our hot mixtape, we'll leave that for
Yes.
the people to decide. But there's just something freeing about being able to sing along with music, and you're not you just feel it. It's entirely felt. You don't have to try to be like, I gotta
You gotta
make
hit
my
that
voice.
note.
Yeah, like I gotta really hit that note. You're kind of just
Yeah.
going for it, and it's just like it'll sound good regardless because the music was already written around somebody who isn't in the perfect key or isn't what it like hitting this
Right.
exact note, but it
Yeah.
just
I mean,
feels nice.
as long as you sing with love, if you have love in your heart while you're singing, just let it out, man. That's what this music's about.
You couldn't see, but I was nodding my head profusely while you were doing that because track number 8, If You Have Love in Your Heart, this is the next track.
Yes, it is. I do that all the time when you start doing segues. I kind of like I lean back and I have a shooting grin on my face usually when you're starting a segue.
It's great.
I feel like even the listener can tell when we're starting segues because there's usually like a little pause and then we kind of like steer in a completely random direction. But
Sometimes it's completely like integrated.
yes,
Though.
so we have some very good segues at times, but most of the time I feel like it's
Yeah.
pretty noticeable when we're changing topics.
But that's what we love about this podcast, and that's what you love. And if you have love in your heart, you're listening to the podcast. So this song,
another segue right back into the same song. Track number 8. If you have love in your heart.
This one is like back to the acoustic for this short song. Like it's a minute and a half. It's kind of like, this is where I make the divide of the album in my mind every time I listen to it.
Yeah,
like,
it feels like an interlude kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of just, it's the 8th track out of 16. I know that's not the exact halfway point, and most of the songs on the second half of this album are longer than the ones on the first, but it's, I don't know, it's just kind of back to the acoustic, like not very mastered sound. Like the vocals on this sound like they're kind of in like a super reverby far away room. It's got that feel to it.
It's a pretty raw recording.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it reminds me of a little bit of a longer version of Michael Jordan of Drunk Driving, just halfway through the album.
Well, I think I like this one better than that. So maybe the length. No, the length isn't the issue. I just like this one. Yeah, it's minimal. It's got the upright bass. It's got the guitar. There's not a lot of percussion to it, but there is some, just little notes. It's not a lot going on though.
Yeah, and I mean, like the title, it just flat out pretty much says what the song's about. Like, if you have love in your heart, then that's all you need. Like, the lyrics are just like, if you have love in your heart, then who am I to judge you? If you have love in your heart, then no one can rise above you. Type deal. Just, which is something that, I mean, is in a lot of the music that he writes, where it's just like, he is very much as long as you do whatever you're doing with love and not like stepping on other people to do it, like everybody just be like, very much just be yourself and don't go into anybody else's stuff with like jaded intentions. Don't be a dick to other people, and just kind of be the best version of yourself that you can be.
Yeah, which is a message I think we can all get behind, because it's so positive, man.
Yeah, I think no one would disagree with that.
I mean, I kind of slightly disagree with the way it is presented. I know you were segueing.
I want to hear this.
I just feel like it, at least the way it's presented in this song, not necessarily the way you explained it, because I agree with how you explained it, because again, it's a very positive message. But I feel like just having love in your heart doesn't mean that you can get away with literally anything, because a lot of really shitty things are done with intentions of love, right? A lot of people have love in their heart when they're committing heinous crimes, you know,
or just generally being dicks, like the people who think that they can. I'm not even going to start, but yeah,
there's a fine line. Obviously, the intention of the song isn't necessarily that way, but the way it is presented kind of made me like think about that. I was like, well, you're not completely invincible just because you're not able to avoid criticism just by having love in your heart. You have to actually like be doing something good and not harming somebody else. But
outside of having love in your heart, there are
other criteria.
Yeah, there's still a moral kind of playbook to go by.
Right, but no one wants to hear us talk about that. We're going to talk about track number 9 instead. No one.
Boom, 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 boom.
Which Joey segued, and then I brought it back for a second.
Dude, we did 2 double segues in a row.
We did. We're
What's that about?
Double segue boys.
Hell yeah.
No one's done that before.
A triple. The fucking triple.
I love the drum intro into the bass line in this track. It's got a good groove. There's like a surfy guitar and an organ that kind of comes in and it builds with the vocals for some suspense. And it's just very like dark and brooding. And this one, it kind of felt like a song by The Doors, but with kind of more like punk vocals. And the solo comes in, hits perfectly. The drums rocking out on the ride cymbal throughout the solo and stuff. It's chef's kiss. I like it.
Hell yeah. I totally agree. I wouldn't have made the Doors connection, but now that you say it, I see it. Like this song, it has a very like blues infusion into it, I feel, where that kind of gives it that darker sound. Maybe I wouldn't even classify it as darker. I don't know what I'm saying. I think of the Doors as like a darker sound. So
do I.
Okay. Well, maybe I do know what I'm saying. Maybe I'm just agreeing with you. Who knows?
It's very like rainy day, moody kind of music, I think.
Yeah. I won't say this is like my favorite song on the track, or I say that so much. My favorite song on the album, but it's definitely like I feel like this is a good intro to what I consider to be like the second part of the album.
Yes, I agree with that.
And lyrically, I like the lyrics as well. No one references what Sean considers to be the no ones of society. Not okay. That sounded bad. What he says that society considers to be the no ones of society. It's talking about like the homelessness issue and
Right.
people who are kind of just discarded by society. He used to work in a homeless shelter and just kind of saw like the brunt of it, where people are just treated like less than people, and society just kind of explains it away by saying, well, like they didn't work hard enough, or they don't have the connections, or like, or just the opposite of like the platitudes that if you work hard enough you can get out, which isn't always true. Like there's
Yeah,
it's
I
just
think that's discussed more in detail in a couple tracks from now. But yeah, it's just yeah, it's not a great situation where we have people kind of justifying the place of homelessness and saying no, like that they deserve to be there. We need those people down there because it's better for us if there are some people that don't have anything.
yeah. Yeah, man, like the line that's like fuck, I'm trying to find it now. He pretty much he's just saying if there weren't any no ones, there wouldn't be enough to go around.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, just like a human lost and found, if they let them all be someones, there wouldn't be enough to go around. It's better
yeah,
for us all that there are no ones. Just
which is
fucking
not
shitty.
true. Because all would just like naturally include the people who you're calling no ones. So of course it's not better for all of us. So how
Yeah,
did you just forget about those people?
of
Like
course.
yeah, because that's the
Well,
whole point.
not forgot, but intentionally excluded,
Yeah,
perhaps.
you're intentionally ignoring these people.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Super fucked up.
Makes me want to sing some sad songs. Intermission.
Hell yeah. The
Track number
perfect segue to track number 10. Sad songs, intermission.
10. Intermission. I fucking hate this song musically. I hate
Oh
it.
my god.
It's like I don't know. It's got this like super simple like traditional country song kind of feel to it, with like some honky tonk piano and there's not a lot of like progression. There's not a lot of excitement happening. It's just I don't know. It sounds like something that would be played in like a local bar around here, and I don't like it. Lyrics aside, obviously.
Yeah. I guess taking the whole context out musically, yeah, this isn't something that I would go for.
Yeah.
But in the context of the whole album, I like it as kind of like a palate cleanser, and I understand that it the music is intentionally written to sound like this. Like
Yes, it
it's
was a decision for sure.
yeah. So I kind of just go with that. But yeah, like it has like an old timey cabaret bar type, like something you'd hear in, I imagine, an old saloon
Yeah.
style, like a more modern bar that is meant to be a saloon, Wild West like themed bar in
Yeah.
between shows at the bar, and it's just like some dude like like playing along on the piano.
Just fucking honky tonking it up, man.
And it has the best piano solo that is essentially just somebody mashing the same note for about 15 seconds really fast.
I mean, I feel like Freebird hits that sometimes too. You know? Not the Freebird on this album,
Oh
but
my god, I completely forgot that there is a Freebird on this album.
yeah, the Leonard Skinner Freebird is what I
Yeah.
was referring to.
Well,
Well, hey, you know what your boy Adam Neely says: repetition legitimizes. So
repetition legitimizes.
repetition legitimizes.
Lyrically, this song is, I mean, I feel like it's a song that at least both of us can connect with, as we mainly like sad songs, and
Yeah,
where he is talking about wanting to write sad songs and not wanting to be constricted to writing the popular happy music where people are just like, hey, nobody wants to hear that shit. Write the happy songs, and that's
yeah,
like that's what's going to make you the money. And he's just not having that shit.
yeah. That is the song. And there's nothing I can say to add to that. That just it makes me think of like kind of back in the day, like some older songs that aren't necessarily positive and cheery, but somehow still they worked because there was a lot of like heart put into them, and there was a lot of like thought and emotion put into them. So sad songs are okay, like "Zombie" by the Cranberries, by Andrew Jackson Jihad.
Yeah, the cover by Andrew Jackson Jihad.
Did they ever cover the song?
I don't think they have. I haven't heard it.
Okay.
And okay, track number 11, the title is "Zombie" by the Cranberries by Andrew Jackson Jihad.
Yes.
So that's the full title. Sean, he was doing a live stream series at the very beginning of like lockdown, and he did it for a couple of months, where every day without fail, he would go for like, I think it was about an hour. He would just play his songs, covers of other songs, and just like play it for people.
Yeah.
And I listened to just about all of them, and I don't think he ever covered it on there, and I haven't heard it anywhere, but I would like to hear him try to cover "Zombie" by the Cranberries. That would be, I think, a good experience.
It might be, but it is not the song, despite what the title says. This is not a cover of it. It's kind of like an upbeat, folky, swingy song kind of thing going on with just like an alternate bass line, acoustic guitar, mandolin, vocals. It's got a good vibe to it.
Yeah, it does have a good vibe to it. It's got like, I don't know, it seems like it would be one of their older songs. This song sounds a lot like their more acoustic stuff from beginning. It has his signature kind of strumming as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like acoustic chords, but he does this thing where he like flicks his fingers while he's strumming with his hands, and it like causes it just sounds like really, really, really fast strumming that's hitting a bunch of different strings all at the same time. So it kind of sounds like it's just playing a normal chord, but it's got like this extra little texture to it that I really like in his playing.
There's a dimension to it that isn't just in a strummed chord.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
But that's about what the music sounds like. The lyrics, it's kind of piggybacking off of the homelessness that was talked about in No One, but it's more about the struggle of actually trying to do something about it. Like, where people are all just like, it starts off talking about like, if I had a cigarette for every time somebody, like a homeless person, asked me for a cigarette, I'd have enough cigarettes to get me through the day. Which in that he's just talking about like, what is me giving you a cigarette going to do? Like, I get it'll like give you a cigarette. It'll be you'll be happy for not, well, you won't be happy. You'll be placated for 5 minutes or however long it takes you to smoke that cigarette. But then I also need my cigarettes, and I'm not helping you in any way. I'm not actually helping you by doing this. And he goes on to like talk about like homeless shelters that are just giving like shitty food to people, like talks about like giving them like Little Caesars and fruit punch and stuff that's not helping them, and it keeps them dependent on them. Not that you shouldn't help people, and I feel like that's part of the struggle that's played in here, where it's like, it's a fine line between like helping people out in a tough time and fostering dependence towards other people without giving them a way to work towards independence. And it's just hard.
Yeah, it is very difficult. I think you perfectly summed up a lot of the song. There's also this kind of ulterior motive kind of thing playing in, where he's criticizing the quote unquote saints. There's a section of the song where he's singing "When the Saints Go Marching In," but he kind of like, he's playing on that, and it to me at least came off as there's the intention that some people that they're helping out the poor, helping out the homeless, are just doing it for themselves, to make themselves feel like they've helped someone, even though they're not actually doing anything. It's a very, I think the towards the end of the song, the last line says, "There's not enough spare change in the world to make such an empty gesture count," referring to if someone asked him for change, because it's so like, yes, it is good to help people out, like you said. However, just giving someone spare change is not going to have any sort of long-term effect. There's just the here and now. It will give them a burger or something. It will help them buy beer or whatever the fuck. And it just like, it doesn't do anything. It takes more than spare change and junk food to pull somebody out of poverty.
Yeah.
And there's this additional layer that even the people that do genuinely care, that aren't just doing it to make themselves feel good, they can't give enough to make a genuine difference because they need the stuff themselves. You can't really. It's very difficult for one person to put enough effort, put enough money, put enough resources into helping somebody get out of poverty without putting themselves in that situation.
Especially in like the infrastructure that is, I don't know, that we currently have
Yeah.
in
I
in
mean, we talked a
society.
little bit about last week, I think, where I think we mentioned that like just being a homeless person and trying to get a job somewhere or trying to wash up. It's you get kicked out of McDonald's if you look like you're a homeless person. Pretty much,
Yeah.
like so many people just turn you away just because like you are in the situation you're in, and they don't see it as they don't they claim to want people to get out of that situation, but then they refuse them. They don't actually help them. They don't actually want people to get out of those situations, it seems.
How did it get to that point? Like that's what I want to know.
Yeah, I don't fucking know, man.
Like
It's
how
fucking
can you
horrible though.
yeah, like how can that be a thought process that people have? It just blows my mind.
It is fucking crazy, man. People are people. People too. Still people in.
This was the God damn it.
Oh man, track number 12 is people 2 in Roman numerals. So it's people I, then the number 2, colon, still people in. So it's a sequel to a sequel. So it's people 2, still
Yeah.
people in.
Which okay, so that album I had referenced, "People Who Can Eat People Are the Luckiest People in the World," had two songs on there. Coincidentally, the last song on the album was called "People," and then like midway through the song, there was "People 2," and it had a subtitle, but I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But
Yeah.
so at least in title, this song is like a a, a trilogy
It's the
to
third song.
yeah, but it's two people too, which it to be fair, it does have more in common with people too, so maybe that's why it's people too. I think
Yeah.
he was just like fucking around. Also, I mean, still people. What's that? Every
Yeah.
time I say that, I'm just like, what?
Still people and people gonna people, man.
They are. They definitely are.
It's another like folksy kind of quiet track. It's similar to the prior track, but not as upbeat. And then it comes in like at the end of the song. There's just this huge like big rock finish that kind of like leads into the next track as well. But for the most part, this track's just kind of like a folksy kind of quiet track
I do
on
like
the
that
folk
big.
side of their uh sound, I guess, for this
Yeah,
album.
yeah. I like that big rock finish. It's nice, and it comes out of nowhere, and it's really fun to sing
Yeah.
whenever you're singing the whole song.
I agree. It caught me off guard the first time I listened to this album for the first time when I was driving up to Columbus over the weekend, and I didn't know where he was going with the song. I was listening to it, and the end of the song is, you don't have it any better, you don't have it any worse. You're an irreplaceable human soul with your own understanding of what it means to suffer. And that's a huge, and he hangs on huge for a while. I'm like, where's he going with this? And it's a huge what? And he comes in with bummer, and the whole like the big rock ending kind of comes in. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way to end the song. And it
Hell
caught me
yeah, it
completely
is.
off guard.
I just love how like flippant it is, where the whole
Yeah.
song, this is just a super serious song, and then he's just like it's the line before it, "You're an irreplaceable human soul with your own understanding of what it means to suffer," and
Yeah.
that's a huge bummer because it fucking is. It totally
It
is.
is. It's a huge fucking bummer. It's a very casual way to say that, like, man, that sucks. But there's nothing we can do about it. It's just the way shit is. And I think that's like, I mean, that's the song is like kind of highlighting the fine line between having a stable life and having nothing. And it doesn't take a lot more than like a string of bad luck or a couple bad decisions to lose everything you've ever loved. But people still victim blame those that have lost things, saying that it's their own fault that they've ended up on the streets because they did something stupid. I don't know. It's kind of it's kind of playing with those themes that we've already talked about a bit, and then it also kind of like like we've mentioned, it ends on this note of like, well, regardless of your situation, no matter how good or bad you have it, like you have your own understanding of what suffering is, and it's different from what everyone else views suffering is, and because of that there's this disconnect, and there's nothing we can do to really solve that disconnect between people.
Yeah, like, and that's highlighted so many other times in this song. Like, there's so many lines from this song that I feel like
Yeah,
are really good, but like
I agree.
specifically hitting on that point of your own understanding of what it means to suffer. And earlier in the song, he says, "You don't want to hear about all those starving children. You don't want to be told it's all in your head, because if it's all in your head, that's terrible. Like,
Yeah,
that's
that's
also
that's
bad."
not the best case scenario at all. that's
Yeah,
that's maybe a worst case scenario, because then there's nothing tangible there.
man.
He
And
also,
then,
another line that I really liked, he says, "You can hope it gets better, you can follow your dreams, but hope is for presidents, and dreams are for people who are sleeping."
God, that's such a good line.
It
I
is.
love it.
I like all of this song. Again, lyrically, this album, I feel like this album stands out to me lyrically more than any of the other albums that we've like talked about, which is maybe this is just like a weird turning point where I'm starting to like finally, after a year and a half of doing this, start to pay attention to lyrics as I'm listening, instead of just like analyzing the words that are on a page and just kind of like feeling the music and doing it. But yeah, lyrically I just like this whole album, and this song is definitely one of the examples of great lyrics in my opinion.
Well, hell yeah. It's also, in my opinion, like, man, I just can't say enough about this song. And I mean, I just want to say sorry, bro, for how long I'm sure I ramble at times.
Yeah, we should probably wrap this up. We're coming up on the hour mark. We're doing a lot
Okay.
better than we did last week. But track number
Yeah.
3, sorry, bro. He segued
Boom.
it.
Yeah.
We did it.
And this one, it hits back with the punk. It's like it ends with that huge bummer rock finish,
Yep.
and it just keeps running from there. And it's a short one. It's a sweet one. It's got a nice punky punch to it, and I like that sound. It's good.
I agree. There's a nice little breakdown and build up section towards the end, and it's got this big final push. It is what it is, man. It's short. It's sweet. I'm just repeating you at this point because you nailed it.
Well, hell yeah, I love
And there's
nailing
there's not
things.
there's not a lot of discussion, for better or worse, on the music end
Yeah.
of this album sometimes.
Yeah, which is totally fine. Lyrically, this song, it seems to be about like the trials and tribulations of living, I guess, in a modern, more specifically American society. Like,
Yeah.
which that seems to be what a lot, like, whenever he's referencing society, he lives in Phoenix, Arizona, so he's referencing American society whenever he's talking about all the shitty things that are happening. And he's referencing people who normally just kind of go about their lives without anxiety or thinking of all the pressures or thinking about all the injustices or thinking about all just the shit that gets him down. And while he
Yeah.
doesn't really want to be like them, he envies that.
Yeah, it's a kind this the whole song kind of goes back and forth of this like, I envy you, but I also don't want to be you
Yeah.
kind of thing, because like there is there are many benefits to living in ignorant bliss, right? When you don't have to worry about all those things, when you're just kind of in your own bubble, and you don't have much struggle, or you don't at least show any signs of that kind of anxiety or that struggle or weakness or of any sort. So he's like, man, that'd be cool, but also that would not be cool, because then I wouldn't be aware of what's actually happening
Yeah.
in the world. He doesn't want to lose that kind of like individuality and freedom that he gets from having a consciousness and then being aware of what's going on, whereas a lot of like people in a quote unquote normal life have a very simple, almost like preordained aspect to it, where they're just kind of like going with the flow and not really thinking about what they're doing.
Yeah. They're the people from last episode where we were talking about just driving home from work past the protesters, and they're just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm living my life.
Yep,
But
that doesn't affect me.
And I like specifically the second to last, I guess it's like a verse or a chorus or whatever, but I feel like the words sum up a lot of how I feel about his music or how he portrays his music, where he's saying, I don't want to be like you, but I'm still rooting for you. Where he's
Right.
like, you're different, and I don't want that, but you do you, and I'm gonna be here for you on the sidelines. Like, I'll help you in whatever way I can.
Yeah, I think that sentiment came up in a different song. I don't remember what it was, but that kind of theme of supporting someone that is doing something that he wouldn't want to do, and acknowledging that they're just different. I mean, even in the last track, when he's talking about everyone has their own perspective of what suffering is, and that's just how it is, and he's kind of just he's accepting that. He's saying like we're gonna be different and we can't change that, or we shouldn't change that at the very least. And so like I just want you to be happy, I want me to be happy, and we have two different ways of being happy, kind of thing, and they're both valid.
Both extremely valid, and maybe they can hang out, become at least acquaintances, and hang out at the skate park together. Do some fun stuff.
Yeah, and get some fucking skate punk music going,
Hell yeah,
like this track 14, skate park.
yeah,
Nice. This one,
nice.
it's got some like ominous rumbling and some drum hits before the song really kicks off into a pretty upbeat kind of like it. I mean, it's called skate park, so my mind, of course, went to like skate punk kind of music, like in Tony Hawk's Pro Skaters and stuff like that. But it's got a pretty clean guitar tone as opposed to like a lot of the distorted kind of skate punk. But it's still like very upbeat and ripping and blistering through it all.
Yeah, this one, it's very like, I kept wanting to say upbeat, and then I had to switch it to up tempo because something about their music doesn't hit upbeat for me, but I think
Yeah,
it's the lyrics. But this song, I feel like you could use upbeat because he's talking about,
that's true.
like, I feel like this is a pretty, I guess, hopeful song. And while the music is, it feels like a more stripped back continuation of like Sorry Bro with like the clean tones and stuff. It still has the energy,
Yeah,
definitely, but it's like the guitar tone, yeah, it's cleaner. But lyrically, this one is more continuing the be yourself vibe of like wanting to, like, we're all different, be yourself. It's not your job to make everybody happy. You don't have to answer to anyone or anybody.
yeah.
And
Just stick to
man,
your guns.
yeah, and don't quit until you feel like changing them.
Yeah, and I think that is what I like the most about the song, at least lyrically, is like we literally just said the chorus is like stick to what you're doing, do what you want to do, but don't feel so tied to it that you feel trapped in it. You can always change that. Like if you find that something that you've loved doing for the past 10 years no longer brings you joy, you can change that. You don't have to keep doing that. You can go find something else that makes you just as happy, because people are growing, people are changing, and you should never feel like you're stuck into doing something just because it's what you've been doing and it's what used to bring you joy.
Yeah, I feel like that is such a forgotten notion that
Yeah.
just people naturally change. Almost nobody is going to stay the exact same for their entire life and be happy with it and not change anything at all. And if you feel stuck, change should come from within, and I feel like that's the most effective change.
Yeah.
So allow yourself that change.
Yes.
Not because
Don't.
somebody else told you.
And it's really hard, like especially from like a hobby standpoint, right? Like if you grew up playing football and or playing any sort of sport in school, and that was what you found passionate about or felt passionate about, and then like you graduate high school, you maybe go to college for sports, at some point in your life you're not going to be able to physically do that, or even before that time happens, like you might just stop finding it interesting, you might be tired of playing football or soccer or whatever. And there's this kind of like it's kind of sad acknowledging that. So I feel like a lot of times you just keep doing it anyway, or like playing video games, or whatever extracurricular activity kind of thing that you're into. Like it's okay to hit a point where it doesn't bring you joy. And I feel like a lot of people hit that point and they acknowledge it in their minds, but they kind of reject it at the same time. They're like, no, like I don't have anything else. This is all I have is playing video games 12 hours a day. And if I don't do that, then I'm not me. And that's kind of something that I've mentioned before that I've been kind of dealing with, not specifically like with hobbies or anything, but just this perception of who you are as a person and tying it to things that aren't you.
Yeah,
It creates this kind of bad situation where you're trapping yourself into doing something that you don't enjoy.
man. Individuality and freedom is definitely, it's a double-edged sword. That's
It
for
is.
sure.
It is. It makes me just want to go out to a concert and yell at whoever's playing Freebird to make them to play track 15.
Freebird,
Freebird.
the
But it,
Freebird that you halfway referenced earlier.
yes, that is not the Leonard Skinner Freebird. No,
No.
nor is it a cover of the Leonard Skinner Freebird.
That seems to be a theme on this album.
I mean, it's 2 tracks, right?
Yeah.
Although this one
Out of
isn't.
16.
This isn't Freebird by Leonard Skinner by the Andrew Jackson Jihad.
Yeah.
It's just Freebird.
This one is the beginning of what I consider to be one of the great ends of an album that I've
Yeah,
heard like recently. Like the
I agree.
last two, I'm so glad you agree. The last 2 songs on this album, specifically after listening to the rest of the album, are just like, every time I hear it, I'm just like, oh shit, man, that's good.
Yeah, this track, it almost has that finality to it. This is the penultimate track on the album. There's definitely a connection between them. I mean, the titles are Freebird and Big Bird. Spoiler alert. So if you hear us mention Big Bird, then we're gonna start segueing. But it's definitely one cohesive end with 2 different tracks, and I do think it was a good choice to have them as 2 different tracks because they do have 2 different sounds to them, but they both kind of it together form the ending of this album in a very good way. Freebird has it starts with like some like ambient noise, whether it's like running water or rustling leaves, and there's like some bird noises, and then there's like a cough, and then this kind of slow lumbering folk song starts from that. At some point, there's like a steel guitar that comes in, and it really gives this kind of like southern feel to it that I really enjoy. I just like the sound overall on this track.
I do too. Like it's 4 minutes long, and it really stays in that folk sound, kind of slow lumbering folk sound for most of it.
Yeah,
And I don't like, it does not feel 4 minutes long. I feel like this song, it's just like, not to sound too insane, but I feel like time doesn't exist whenever I'm listening to this song, where it's like, it doesn't feel too long, it doesn't feel too short. I would not have thought that 4 minutes has passed whenever I'm done listening to it. It
yeah,
always just,
especially in the context of this album where so many of the tracks are like 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes,
yeah.
even shorter than that. There's a lot of short tracks on this album. These last 2 tracks are 2 of the longest album or tracks on this album, and it doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel like you're going from a bunch of short sprints to like some long journey. It feels completely natural.
Well, I guess we'll move on to lyrics because I I was talking about freedom being a double edged sword in at the very end of the last song, and that's kind of what this song is about. It's about where we were talking about him having, I guess, the knowledge to think of all the problems in the world, and that is a freedom that is, I mean, for better or for worse, he at least can do it. It's
Yeah,
not always great for his mental health or just his health in general, but he can do it. He has the freedom to do that. He has the freedom to be who he wants to be, but it's also a struggle to just be who you want to be, or to know what you want, or to act on that, even like, because knowing what you want is only like half the battle,
hmm,
and then actually putting it into reality is also, like, accepting it and putting it into reality is also just another struggle in itself.
yeah. I feel like the whole like the final conclusion of the theme of this album is acceptance and kind of finding peace within all of the anxieties and all of the issues that he's kind of talked about throughout the whole album. This track is definitely like in that vein of just like, yeah, this is kind of shitty, but it's how it is, and I don't want to change that. I think it's a good thing that I can see the shit in the world.
Yeah, and he sums it up great with the end of the choruses that are, the first one is I'm as free as a bird flying over the sea who just can't find the summer, and the next one is I'm as free as a man who's out wandering the streets looking for shelter, which is just like
Yeah,
talking about, like, yeah, you have the freedom, but you still, like, it's, the freedom isn't,
it doesn't
is,
fix everything.
yeah, you still have to know where to go, you still have to know who to talk to, you still have to know what you're doing even.
Yeah,
And the lines in the, I guess, the last verse, if there's a god in the sky or a devil below, that doesn't matter to me, because I see Satan's face when I look in the mirror, and I see God inside of all the people I meet, where it's just like reiterating how he seems to just like so much believe in other people, but he still doubts himself so much.
Yeah.
Or he's seeing God in other people, but when he's looking in the mirror, he sees Satan.
Which is fucked. It's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to live like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it's a super common thing, especially nowadays,
Yeah.
where there's so much like self doubt and self criticism amongst people, and people just like it's kind of bad. It's almost like an idolization, I guess, in some extreme cases where like people are like, oh yeah, like everyone else is great at adulting
Yeah.
or doing something. Everyone else is making something. Everyone else is settling down. They're having kids. They're getting a career going. Whatever it is, people see the success in others and they're like, that's incredible. I wish I could do that. Instead of flipping around and being like, no, wait, I can do that. I'm going to do that, or I'm
Yeah.
going to find success in my own definition of what success is.
Man, life is just hard. Like, sometimes I just want to go back to childhood and watch Sesame Street. You know, Jeremy, who is your favorite character in Sesame Street?
Elmo.
Oh, shit.
Track number 16, Big Bird.
Boom.
The segue that never happened.
Hell yeah. It was the implied segue.
Yeah.
I'm trying something out.
They knew it was coming. You guys filled in the blank. Maybe we should have just left it blank. Maybe I'll edit out and just have it like, what is your favorite Sesame Street character, audience?
What is this, Dora the Explorer?
Exactly. Oh man, this song though. This next verse though.
Yeah.
Whew, this has some like echoey acapella singing that comes in for the first like few bars, and it feels so like empty. And that emptiness is just set up to contrast the huge ominous sound that comes in, filling all of the empty space with strings and pounding drums. And it's got this just massive like finale feeling to it, even if it's not a happy ending. It is the conclusion of this, and you can feel that. There's this kind of midsection in it that I guess really it's the ending of the song, I suppose, that packs this huge punch, and then the droning of the bass sustains a while. The drums kind of come in for a measure or two, just kind of like playing some random beat out of nowhere, which is kind of weird. And then we're just kind of like left with some ambient park noises, like birds chirping and cars driving by, kind of bringing it full circle from the start of Freebird.
Yeah. Man, that big sound they get though, like it's got whatever fucking like bass they have going on in there. It's like a bowed upright bass, but it sounds so much bassier than it has any right to sound.
Yeah,
somehow
it sounds like a contrabass or something. It's just like so fucking low.
It's just insanity. It rocks my whole head every time I'm listening to it. And man, at this point, the first time I listened to this album, it was just such an experience.
Yeah,
like I liked the whole album up to this point, and then the first time I was listening to it, I got to this song and I was just like, I think I actually like had to like pull over somewhere. Like I was on the highway and I was just like, what the fuck's happening?
Yeah, you have to like stop and acknowledge the sound that is occurring in your ears, because it's phenomenal. It is a big sound.
Big sound accompanied by big
bird
lyric. Big Bird. Big Bird is making those big sounds.
Yeah, Big Bird is the company that America doesn't want you to know exists.
Yeah.
Hashtag birds aren't real.
Oh my god. That whole fucking movement is gonna latch onto this. Big Bird.
Hey, birds aren't real. If you want to sponsor an episode, we'll fucking do it.
Yeah, I'll take that sponsor in a heartbeat.
But yeah.
You go.
Okay. We're gonna do this again. Lyrically, the song is just about the singer kind of reflecting and being afraid on being afraid of all of the shitty things that affect people, and more specifically how they affect people he loves. And he talks about being afraid of mortality and death, but he's also afraid of like being alive, because the world is fucked up and scary at a lot of points. I did look into the annotations on this. This is the first time for this album that I actually like looked at what people were saying about the lyrics, because I couldn't pin down Big Red Bird, what that was talking about. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. The band is based in Phoenix, Arizona, obviously Phoenix being a big red bird that gets rebirthed from ashes or whatever. But from that, it kind of seemed to acknowledge that even though he has all these fears, each day is a new day, and he's able to get a clean start every day if he needs to, and he can strive to be better or to be less fearful. I don't exactly agree. Someone annotated the last section where the title comes from about him becoming Knife Man or becoming a knife kind of thing. They said that it was him buying a knife was like him trying to shut out or suppress his fears or suppress the world, and that the peaceful bird sounds that happen towards the end of the track were like kind of revealing that his fears were exaggerated. I don't really agree with that. Instead, I think it's more like he's saying that he has the power to make changes in his life that can lead him to overcome those fears. Where he's getting a knife, he can cut out parts of his past that scare him and kind of like whittle his life into something more meaningful than it has been. And this kind of empowerment brings him some form of peace, even if it doesn't stop other people from being shitty or stop loved ones from dying. It kind of gives him more control than he's kind of accepted at this point.
Yeah, I that's how I've always seen it as well. Like, I mean, a knife is a tool that can be used self-defense, to make stuff, to make things better, to make like to make a new time in his life. It can be used to create the future. And it's one line that that I like that he brings back actually from distance
Mm-hmm.
is it's harder to be yourself than it is to be anybody else. I wish I were a little less of a coward. And in distance, he says, I wish that I were someone closer to you. And I feel like the difference there is him accepting that, like, I don't know, he says, I wish that I were someone closer to you. And now he's wishing he was a little bit less of a coward so he could do something about it,
Yeah,
maybe.
it's more of like
Or,
an independent notion, I think.
yeah, like he's wanting to change now. And I mean, and he was talking about in Skate Park that don't stick to your guns and don't change. Don't quit until you feel like changing them. And now he's feeling like changing them.
Yeah,
And he's going to be moving on.
I agree with that. I like the album. I like the album lyrically overall. Like it's all very solid, I think, for the most part, and the messaging behind it is super positive and stuff that like I relate to and that I also like to share and preach about and stuff like that. So I'm fucking down. I'm down with this album, even though every time I listen to it, I don't like the first track or two. It kind of like it starts a bit rough for me, but eventually, like by the end of this album, I've forgotten that it had a rough start, and I'm engrossed in it. I really like this. I think this was a good pick,
Hell yeah.
especially
That's
because there's so much so much of the lyrics stood out to me on this one that it just like I don't know, it feels very well crafted.
I'm very glad you liked this album because I very much like this album and it makes me feel like I didn't fuck up last week whenever I made the decision because it was like I had two albums that I was going to pick and I was like depending on it just makes me feel like I made the right decision because I
I think
made
you
a
did.
decision
I mean,
based
I
off
don't know what the other album was, but I feel like this was a good decision regardless.
this was I am almost certain a better decision than the other one.
Well, we're gonna find out because we're doing it next week, right?
We are, but before I announce the album, it will start something, and it's going to start. I had mentioned there was an artist who I really liked because I kind of went on a parallel journey as him, and you can
Mm-hmm.
hear his journey through the music, and not like I went to the extremes that he went, but it was just like something I listened to over time, and it
Sure.
kind of came out similar to certain things that were happening in my life, and
This is a very familiar story to me.
oh.
In some other journey that we're gonna take at some point.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So this will be good. I'm excited for it because as good of friends as you and I are, there's a lot of the like personal like backstory stuff that we just don't talk about because it never comes up. So
Yeah.
if this is kind of going through some of that shit, I'm excited about it, man.
It's at a time where you would have known me, but
But not I would have known of you
yeah,
or
yeah.
known you without
You
knowing you.
yeah, it was early on at work, I'd say, at whenever we met at the
Hell yeah.
place that we worked. So, but so this album is called Love Songs for the Apocalypse by Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains.
All right, Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains.
Yep.
I like that. I like the sound of that.
Hell yeah.
Even
And
though I feel like the music that would accompany Johnny Hobo and a freight train maybe not great, but we'll see.
But you will be pleased to know that this is a substantially shorter album with less tracks.
Hey, it wasn't an issue for this AJJ album.
I guess it's
honestly,
true.
I liked it a lot. So sweet. So next week we're listening to Love Songs for the Apocalypse, Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains. I'm excited. We're starting the second leg of this kind of folk punk thing, kind of pivoting and going in this hard Johnny Hobo direction. Learning about Joey's tragic backstory.
Oh God.
or whatever this means to him. So I'm down for it. I'm sure you guys are down for it. If you have thoughts on this AJJ album, let us know in the comments. If you have thoughts about Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains, come back next week because we're going to be talking about his discography, I guess, over the next 3 weeks.
It won't be
at least 3
discography.
albums in his discography. So
he's got a lot of albums and a lot of bands.
Oh. Is his name Johnny Hobo?
His
birth name is Johnny Hobo.
His name is, I guess his stage name is Pat the Bunny. Real name Pat Schneeweiss.
Oh,
yeah, it's him.
Okay, it's him. We've hit peak Joey music.
Yeah, we really have.
All right, we'll come back next week, and I'll be shitting on one of Joey's most personal albums that he shared. I suppose
it'll be fine.
It'll be totally great. Leave us some comments. Send us some messages. Let us know if you liked or hated this episode of ours, or probably it's just great in comparison to the last week's 2-hour episode. Yep. But I don't know. Fucking stay in our feedback loop.
Bye.